ready.
Gene, from a coach's perspective, lots was said about what happened in the fourth quarter, Georgia Tech's ability to run the ball. Just from your perspective, what did happen? Was it a matter of tempo getting to you guys, or just execution on Tech's part?
Yeah, it was a very disappointing fourth quarter, starting with the coaching aspect, right? I feel like going back and looking at it, we could, there's a lot of things that, in hindsight, we need to improve on and do better. Tempo was a little bit, it was an all-night tempo issue. But going into the fourth quarter, I think we'd given up somewhere around 100 yards rushing for the game, so we weren't really far off the track. It was the explosive plays, what we call catastrophic runs, that really made the difference in the fourth quarter. But, when you go back and you assess everything, there's three things that have to happen better, right? Number one, and it's all coaching related, we have to put them in a better position to be successful. That's number one. And some of that could have happened with some different calls and some things that we could have done better, for sure. The next thing is when it comes to the run fits and how we fit things, we have to do a better job of coaching that in some critical moments where things are happening fast and they're giving you some unique runs. And then we got to do a better job of coaching these guys and giving them, more opportunities in practice to tackle in space. So all of those things happened, right? The calls could have been better. I could have done a better job of putting them in better positions. We have to run fit better, especially when the tempo's fast and it's going pretty quick. And then we got to do a better job this late in the season. We got to do a better job of working back the fundamentals of being able to tackle in open space. So it was really kind of a combination of all of those, and that all falls on me. Every bit of that falls on me, and we're going to get that fixed this week.
Gene, to the untrained eye up there the other night, it simply looked like, they threw it for a lot of yards on you in the first half, so you went to nickel in the second half, and then they ran it for a lot of yards on you. Do you think that you, by adjusting to nickel, sort of opened the door for them to run it over?
No, I don't think so. This day and age, unfortunately, you have to stop both. And in the first half, we weren't great in the pass games. Certainly with with all of the quick passes again, where we were, getting guys in space and having trouble bringing those guys down. We adjusted to that, but that was kind of our Achilles heel in the first half. Then the third quarter, we weren't on the field enough to really know, which was great. Our offense did a great job all night long. They kept us off the field, and we got stops. So I think we got a turnover, and then I think we got out. We got out on downs as well.
Shut them out in the third quarter.
In the third quarter. So now third quarter's rolling along, and you're kind of in line with where you want to be, and the offense is playing really, really well. And then you have a disastrous fourth quarter. So it doesn't really have anything to do with we really leaned heavily on stopping one thing and then we weren't able to stop the other. It was more of what I said. I have to do a better job of positioning these guys. We have to do a better job of where in the run fits, coaching the run fits on some problematic plays for sure. And then, to your point of the pass game, we've got to do a better job of getting our guys in proximity where the tackles aren't so hard and difficult to make in space. And we didn't do a good job of that, last week in terms of, the receivers were really good. We knew they were very athletic. They were all very fast. We talked about that. And, we didn't do a good job. So again, that starts with me. And this week we will make sure that the month of November, that some of these ugly things don't rear their head again.
One of the positive themes of the first 6 games, and we've talked about this a lot, is the adjustments you guys made in game. And you didn't have to wait till halftime. Pittsburgh, you guys made that adjustment late in the first quarter and bowed up the rest of the way. What has been the issue the last 2 weeks with either the adjustments not working? Is it when the guys get a little bit stressed, maybe it's a little bit harder to get those adjustments to work?
Yeah, I think sometimes guys press a little bit. I think, when things are happening really fast and there's tempo involved and, there's stress going on, in the moment, I think sometimes that's played a part of it. But in the end, all of this is coaching. All of this is coaching. And we have done a good job previously of adjusting to things that we needed to. You know, we felt like we did a good job adjusting at half right now with some of the issues that were giving us problems in the open field with the screen game and the quick bubbles and things out there we were getting in the first half. And again, like I said, the third quarter was more on point, and the fourth quarter was just, it was your worst nightmare. So, we make the same adjustments every week, and we thought we were on the right track. And again, what got us in the fourth quarter was what I said, right? Maybe giving us some different calls to put them in better positions to make those plays, us doing a better job of preparing for everything that we could see in that moment, adjusting better, as well. So again, it all falls on me, and we'll get it fixed.
So when you're communicating that to them yesterday, is there a fine line in how you communicate, look, this is us, we need to put you in a better position, we need to initiate the adjustments, or whatever it is you tell them, where you put it on yourself and not them, but they still make mistakes? How do you deal with that balance that, hey, you guys made a lot of mistakes, but this is also on us, and you sort of take some of the pressure off from there, if that makes sense?
Truth and trust. It's truth and trust, right? In this game, there's things that happen and that coaches have to assume the responsibility for, because that's what we do. I'm not trying to jump on a grenade for anybody, but in the end, everything falls on me and this defense, the coaches on this defense, Mac Brown ultimately for everything. That's the way it's structured. So when you don't do the things that you need to do as a coach for those players to trust you and hear you, you just give them the truth. So we gave them the truth. And now, in a game right now, the coaches have to coach and the players have to play. And there's a great mix in there, when you're good and bad, right? Coaches put in a good plan, players execute the plan. Coaches right now don't do a great job of planning, or don't do a great job of adjusting, or don't do a great job of whatever that looks like for whatever team. And then the players usually have to play better. So it's always a mix. It's usually always a mix, right? So when you go in on a Sunday and it's a tough conversation, it's all about truth and trust. I mean, the hardest people you're ever going to stand up and fool is an 18 to 22-year-old. I mean, there's no, you ain't gonna fool them, right? So the coaches assume the responsibility of the production, or lack of, which in our case in the fourth quarter was clear, and our part was strong in it. And there's at times when, of course, the players have to make plays at critical times in the games, and some guys got to play better than others, right? But there was no lack of effort. There was no lack of energy. They wanted to win this game, and they played their butts off. So we go back to the drawing board again, and we recalibrate this week and put a better product on the field than we did last week. But those conversations are real and they're truthful, and that's the only way I know how to do it.
Specifically on the nickel, I understand the third quarter was great for you guys, but then on that last drive, Georgia Tech's going to run the clock, and the defense was still in nickel. Can you sort of walk us through that decision to stay there with nickel? What was it, 2:54 left, 25 left? 2:54.
Yes. So in our scheme, everything that we can do in the defense, there is a nickel in the game, basically, until you get down to the goal line in some instances. So all of our pressures and the things that we have, we're able to run out of nickel. So that gives us a variance of things when we're trying to win the game and we're trying to get the ball back. Last week we were in nickel at the exact same time in the game. We got the stop that we needed, to get the ball back to the offense. So it's not really a question of, whether the nickel is in the game. It was what it allows you flexibility-wise to do when if you're going to pressure or whatever you're going to do. So it just gives us more flexibility, because 90% of the time that's what we're playing in always anyway.
as far as the depth rotation, I believe Campbell may have played 80 snaps or close to it, and everybody else was in the normal realm for you guys. I mean, obviously, he's one of your better players that needs to be on the field, but just sort of rotating him in and out the last couple of games, it seems like that really hasn't happened.
Yeah, it hasn't happened as much as I would like it to happen. I think Amari Gaynor had 13 to 15 snaps. I would like to be able to rotate him more and get him some snaps, meaning Ruck, get him some snaps out. But it's always situational, right? It's always situational. So it depends on what we're running at the time. It depends on where the ball is. It depends on what's happening in the game. As I said at the beginning of the year, and it hasn't changed, we would like to be able to get him in the 60 play range. Now, I think what can't be lost here is that earlier in the season, when we were playing less snaps, we were also getting off the field more. So that helped as well, right? And that's kind of a product sometimes of our own inability to sometimes get off the field on third down. Or, now it seems like a lot of people are going forward on fourth downs on us as well. So the inability to get off the field some in the last couple of weeks has hurt. And it's led to more snaps for him. But to your point, yes, I would like for him to be in the 60 to 70 play range in the game, if possible.
Gene, go ahead. Gene, you talked about going back to, fundamentals and everything. I guess from an execution standpoint, those first 6 weeks, maybe App State's the exception, but I guess the run defense had kind of, shown a lot of improvement, things like that. Last couple of weeks, not quite as successful. Is there anything you can kind of point to with that? Like, is there things that, they were doing and practicing not practicing in games, that first portion of the season, that they're not, replicating as much now?
Right. That's a very fair question. We haven't changed anything from the first 6 weeks to the last 2. Again, I think it's a product of us as coaches right now, putting them in better positions to succeed against now the runs that, we're starting to see, crop up over and over again. We've done a really good study on that the last 2 days of, what is everybody's go-to thing now. And so we just have to get better at it. We'll spend more time really looking at the details of those particular runs and tempo that have created some issues. But it's never going to change, right? You have to have enough guys around the ball, and you have to strike blocks and come off blocks. And we have to put them in a position right now to be able to do that to the best of their ability. So all of those things together is going to be the focus this week.
You said go-to things. You talking about the go-to things that for opponents, like in their run scheme?
Well, I'm just talking about it really works both ways, right? What is the go-to things that people feel like they can, run on us? What they feel like is their kind of go-to runs against whatever fronts we're playing, and then for us, vice versa. What is our go-to defenses? What do we feel most comfortable in, whether it's pressures or no pressures versus those things?
Gene, when we talked to Cedric down there the other night, the question was, it seemed like you guys might have been a little confused pre-snap, and he said, I think we were a lot confused, more than a little bit. And he mentioned, not being prepared. Did you think you all were past that? Did you think you had gotten, I know it's been a process since you got here, with last year and this year, did you think you had gotten past that part of it?
Yeah, I felt like we had. I think there were some times in the game because of the tempo and how fast they were going and things of that nature. It probably felt like that to Seth. I was not aware of that. But yeah, we hope that we have definitely passed that, and we'll address that in terms of making sure that everybody knows where they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be doing. I think a lot of times when things get hairy and things are moving fast, sometimes it has that feel. But yesterday when we went over the film and we talked through everything, everybody totally understood, everything. So I think, in heat of the moment battles, sometimes that's the way it can feel as a player. But I feel very sure they completely and 100% know you know, what the issues were, and they'll obviously know how we're going to fix them. But I don't think I think we were past that. Yes.
Gene, last week you said you expected Georgia Tech to borrow a lot from Virginia's game plan against y'all 2 weeks ago. Did you see that, and do you think that Campbell will continue that chain of borrowing from both?
Yeah, they could. I think Georgia Tech used some things. They did, without question, as the game went on. They didn't necessarily start the game that way, but as the game rocked on, and they weren't having quite the success they wanted to running the ball, I think they went to some of those things. And I fully expect not only Campbell, but you know, our 3 opponents after that to steal the same things. And again, whether they do that as a general rule in their offense or not, I think we'll see some of those things again.
Talking about the tempo, is it fair to say that Virginia and Georgia Tech have run more tempo the past 2 weeks than maybe what you guys have faced earlier in the year? And I guess what have maybe led to those struggles to adjust to the tempo?
Yeah, I don't know that they ran it more. We knew that they, you know, that's kind of what they hang their hat on. That, you know, so Georgia Tech ran it a good bit against Boston College the week before. And again, when you use the word a lot, you know, that can mean a lot of things, right? What is a lot? They ran it probably 16, 18 times tempo-wise against Boston College the week before. Probably the same around, you know, with us. So, you know, it's just something that we have to be prepared for. We can't be surprised by it. We weren't surprised by it. We knew it was happening. We have to, you know, we have to do a better job of getting guys in position right now, get them set. Because when we do that, we don't have any issues with it.
Gene, what was your defense was off the field, your offense was off the field in the third quarter. What was the thing that surprised you the most that they did in the fourth quarter, or the thing that you had the hardest time adjusting to?
Well, yeah, the fourth quarter, 2 things got us in the fourth quarter. I think it was, we were up by 11 when they took the ball over on, I don't know, the 11 or 12 yard line. And they literally they ran it down the ball, they ran it down the field for some leaky yards, where we just weren't, you know, just a guy off here and a guy off there, and it'd be a 6-yard gain, and then it'd be a 5-yard gain, and then they hit a 14-yard pass out there and kind of moved past the 50. And then there's some tempo mixed in there and some things of that nature. So that drive was a disappointing drive because it was 80 whatever yards it was, right? And so that was kind of their go-to thing. They went to, you know, running, you know, outside zone and tempo and throwing bubbles and things out there on the perimeter. So we got that kind of situated on the sideline, and they came out, and then they started going to the spreading us out and running the quarterback run game, and that's really in the end what got us with a tailback and a quarterback run explosive plays. So there were 2 different types of scenarios going on there. The last scenario being quarterback runs and tailback runs with us spread out. The other ones, they were tighter formations and things of that nature. So 2 different ways to attack us.
And right at the end of the game, you knew they were going to run. You went to stop them. They ran, didn't stop them. Was the defense gaslight that time, or was it just?
I think it's probably a combination of everything, right? You know, I could have done a better job calling, you know, some things to you know, get the ball back. We could have executed better. You know, at that point, you know, we were out on the field a good bit in the fourth quarter. So it was probably a mixture of all of that. But again, it all goes back to us doing a better job in those positions of, you know, calling defenses, putting them in positions to succeed. We just have to do a better job of it. We didn't do a great job Saturday night. So we'll get that straight with the kids this week, and we'll move forward.
We've got time for one more.
Are you sure? Gene, you know, you think about offense, you talk to offensive coaches, and they sort of have benchmarks where they're like, you know, if we can get to 400 yards, whether it's 300 thrown and 100, you know, like that's where they want to get to. Like I know 635 yards is not what you're looking to give up in a game plan. Do you have a benchmark just in general where you say, look, we want to hold the team under this much passing, this much running? Like, are those like stated sort of program benchmarks that you have, or do you not have anything like that?
Not necessarily, because you don't know what that game's gonna look like, right? So if a team rushes the ball 54 times in a game, and you're saying your benchmark is 100 yards, holding to 100 yards, it's really not, that's really not a good measuring stick, right? So, what you always want to do is make sure that, when you look at it at the end of the day, it's a point scored. I mean, that's just the bottom line, it's points scored. And scoring defense is the most important stat out there. It just is. Now, are there other stats that are extremely important as well? Of course there are. Turnovers, getting off the field on third down, being able to play good in the low red zone. All of those matter, because you don't want to be out there and you can't get the ball back to your offense. We got a great offense, and we have to be able to get the ball back to them. So when we're not able to do that, yeah, that sounds great if you only hold them to X amount of points. But so it's not clear cut like that. But in the end, there's only one stat that matters, and that's scoring defense.
All right, thanks, Gene.
Thanks, guys.